In my article, came out last night, dealing with my take on the Muhammad cartoon contest, I say these things. I say people like Pamela Geller, who sponsored the contest, Robert Spencer, Geert Wilders, they feel it's essential that we look Islam in the eye and say, we will not be intimidated. We will not be silenced by your rules, your beliefs, your threats. And if you tell us to be quiet, we'll only shout louder. That's their philosophy. And I appreciate that philosophy and mindset. And this cartoon contest was specifically in response to the Charlie Hebdo massacre because of the satirist portrayals of Muhammad in their satirical magazine. Pam Geller, after there was an attempt, there were shots fired and police killed these two Islamic terrorists outside of the cartoon contest. Pam Geller wrote, "Here's what the enemies of freedom sought to crush last night, truth and freedom, but they went up against the wrong kuffar, meaning unbeliever. They were crushed instead." She said, "This shows the need for such conferences. The jihad is raging." I said this, it takes tremendous courage to take these stands. I said, I commend her, along with others, including Spencer, Wilders, and others, for refusing to bow to intimidation, fear. And I said, and I'm quite sympathetic to that because I live every day of my life like that. Refusing to bow down to pressure, refusing to bow down to intimidation, refusing to bow down to fear. Every day of my life, I live like that. For years. On a regular basis, I embrace this attitude. We have gotten in trouble posting things on Facebook about radical Islam. I speak often against radical Islam to expose it. And I say that it is a valid expression of Islam, although not the only expression of Islam. And I've had folks like Robert Spencer and Walid Shubat and Bridget Gabriel and others on my radio show to give them a platform to say what's on their heart. And in the article, I say again, I appreciate the sentiment and I applaud the courage it took to enter the competition. And I said this, I defend Pam Geller's right to hold the contest, and I commend her courage and boldness. But as a Christian witness, as a follower of Jesus, as one wanting to make him known to all people, I will not needlessly provoke someone else, okay? It's one thing to expose error. It's one thing for me to say, this is wrong, this is a false teaching, Muhammad is a false prophet, Islam is a false religion. I'll say that freely. Yes, that's terribly offensive to Muslims. Of course it is. But I am simply speaking the truth in doing it. I am not unnecessarily provoking something to hold to my freedoms. Now, do others have the right to do it? Of course, and I defend that right. Absolutely. Is it completely outrageous and mad that Muslims think they have the right to kill someone, even outside of their faith, who insults their prophet? Of course. Absolutely. Would Muslims like to do that in America? Those that practice Sharia law? Sure, they'd like it imposed on everybody. Absolutely. Should we stand against the encroachment of Sharia law? Absolutely. But as a Christian witness, I'm not going to do something that I know is going to needlessly provoke a Muslim person, because the vast majority of Muslims are not saying kill everyone who differs with us or kill those who draw a cartoon of Muhammad. And you say, well, you don't know Muslims. Well, maybe I know more than you do. I wonder how many Muslim friends, neighbors you've had over the years. But here, I tweeted this out a couple days ago. I'm all for exposing radical Islam and for expressing my differences with Islam as a whole, but I'm not for intentionally insulting Muslims. So someone posted in response, that's what we call cowardice. If you're unable to confront worshipers of false gods, you are compromising the gospel. What bunk? It's not cowardice. It has nothing to do with cowardice. Friends, don't talk to me about cowardice. You can accuse me of all kinds of things. You can criticize me for all kinds of things, but you are not going to criticize me for cowardice. I'm looking at this comment to my article yesterday. I support Pamela Geller 100%. I don't give a darn what a coward such as Dr. Brown thinks. Hey, buddy, don't talk to me about cowardice unless you've risked your lives for the gospel more than I have. Unless you've been mocked and ridiculed for the gospel more than I have. And unless you've had meetings where you're not allowed to have the meetings unless you have police protection. And despite the police protection, you walk out to the crowd to talk to people. Don't talk to me about cowardice. Don't talk to me, buddy, about cowardice when all I'm talking about is being wise as witnesses. By all means, stand up for our freedoms. But there's another issue, which is, are we unnecessarily driving Muslims away from the gospel if we do these kind of things? Would my friend Dr. James White be able to go to a mosque and debate Muslims, and he's maybe the only non-Muslim or one of the only non-Muslims in the whole mosque, and he's going to debate these issues? Would they let him in there if he had just entered a contest to paint a mocking cartoon of Muhammad? Well, did he write a book exposing errors of Islam? Of course he did. He's going to expose error. But there's a way to do it that's constructive. Here, look, every day that I deal with gay and lesbian issues, I know I'm offending gays and lesbians. I know I'm getting people upset with me. I know they're looking at me as hateful or bigoted, whatever. I'm still going to do what I do. I'm going to do it with compassion. But I'm not going to call them names so as to insult them, some derogatory name, and use that so as to insult them and to demean them. I mean, this is just mind-boggling stuff. The students who sat under us for years are so infused with the spirit of courage that they've taken on as a school model for years, by life or by death. I had a guest here with me yesterday talking to one of our second-year students, a young lady, and I asked her, where do you want to go for your internship to serve for 3 months in your third year? Because our third year is half internship and half classes. Where did she say? Iraq. Right in the midst of one of the most dangerous places in the world. That's the spirit of our students. They get that from the Lord. They get that from my example and the example of other leaders. That's what we live with day and night. You could differ with me. You could say, no, Mike, I think it's more important that we put the emphasis on freedoms here. Absolutely. I think it's more important we put the emphasis on freedoms, and that's what we stand for here in America. So that's what I want to stress. And I know the witness is important, but we've got to make a strong statement that we're not going to be intimidated. I feel it's more important. Great. Go for it. I respect that. I honor that. But don't call it cowardice when you say let's not needlessly provoke. Didn't Paul say that he didn't put any stumbling block in front of anyone? Didn't Paul talk about becoming like those you want to reach out to a Jew, becoming like a Jew, to a Gentile, becoming like a Gentile, in terms of just general lifestyle, so as to reach out to present Jesus? Let the cross and the truth of the gospel be the stumbling block. Don't talk to me about cowardice. I've been overseas when I was told, don't preach on this, it could be dangerous. And I preached on it because God spoke to me to do it. And our lives were threatened, the stage taken over by Hindu radicals by the end of the night. Don't talk to me about cowardice, buddy.